King Charles and Queen Camilla, that there would be so-called coming kings that they want to call William or Harry or any other name that they might want to deem them to be. And pretty soon, they will be able to even classify themselves to be back under a monarch that will be under one that they were classified to be King George, because the last time we checked, William's son is named George. And you can just as well find yourself no longer to be under the monarch for King George III, and you can find yourself under King George IV, or possibly a King George V, whatever number this little guy by the name of King George that comes out of the would-be so-called King William's house is going to give himself a number, as his would-be so-called grandfather is now giving himself a King Charles III or King Charles I or King Charles II. And all these things must be recognized, or the U.S. of A. will find themselves back in a would-be world of 250 years of, we would say, at least division, if not subtraction. Because everyone must recognize that, yes, the king just recently was fighting with Mr. would-be so-called Mr. Trump. And Mr. Trump possibly is the only president, and we're not giving him any clout or any credit, but we must be honest, he is the only president of the United States of America who has ever stood up to the monarch, whereby he has saw himself more important than a monarch king or a monarch queen or even a monarch family. He has never placed his family below that family. Neither have he found himself waiting on that one so-called royal family hand and foot, knowing that the monarch was to be a would-be group of people or an organization of people that was to be eliminated. No monarchs, no anarchs. All of them was put to what we classify to be an empire that had failed. And only one president up to this point has been able to stand up in regard to that, even if he was trying to truly uphold something that was known as the Constitution of the United States of America, which claims that it has the Declaration of Independence that excludes itself from any monarch or anarch or any other type of empire and became its own independent leaders. He would be the only president that has stood up in regard to that. All the rest of them have found themselves doing nothing more sitting at the table and smiling and grinning and doing nothing more than licking and kissing the feet and the heels of the one they classify to be queens and kings, only to say that they are not part of a monarch, which has been a lie upon lie. And believe it or not, the reason they're doing that because many of the monarch children are now working inside of the White House as would have been migrants or immigrants that came from that nation or from those nation leaders. And whereby now it's dying out because everybody around the planet has recognized now that they no longer want to be part of a monarch or an empire. Everyone wants their sovereign right. Everyone wants their sovereignty right. Their sovereign and their sovereignty right. So everyone now is taking to, we would say, taken to the field to fight for this right. And because of that, right now, the world is sitting on and at a time where all of the would-be so-called scientific leaders of the past have came to tell the world that it's only a matter of time before the world ends. What they did not say is that the world is not ending in regard to everything on the planet, but it was going to end of a system whereby that was on the planet that should have never been. Most of the science leaders that bought that information, that bought that particular message, were nothing more than a bunch of cockadoring Caucasian men that were only saying that in reference that it might benefit them rather than to be non-beneficial. Well, it tells you in the book in which most of them have made sure that they have strayed away from, and I'm talking about the scientists, it tells them that after these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no one could number, of all nations with an S, tribes with an S, people with an S, and tongues with an S, standing before the throne, and before the Lamb, clothed with a white robe, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, salvation belongs to Yah Allah, God of the universe, who is sitting on the throne, and to the Lamb. All the angels stood around the throne, and the elders, and the 4 living creatures, and all of them fell on their faces before the throne and worshiped Yah Allah, God of the universe, saying, Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom, thanksgiving and honor and power and might be to our Yah Allah, God of the universe, forever and ever. And they all, with a loud voice, agreed, based upon simply saying, Amen, or Amen, whichever you deem it to be necessary. Based upon their RNA and DNA, they were all in agreement. Based upon the fact of being celestial and celestial beings, they were of one. United Nations, it gives us a great pleasure to be able to bring all of this true information to the universe as we do every would-be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It gives us a great pleasure to do it. And also, it kind of put us in a position where we feel awful sometimes, because as we give the information, it seems like the people become more brain dead. The people find themselves running back to AI, which is an artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence are only making up lies in order to steer the people away from the truth. Or they find themselves Googling things that's been around for now since the early would-be 1500s, only to allow themselves to be amused by it rather than take it to heart or to take it as a true interest of truth. Many of the people now passing each other gifts, such as giving each other information that they found on the internet that's been there since the internet began. The internet did not begin in 2000. It didn't begin in the 1900s. For the matter of fact, the internet began way back in about the 16th century and before. They were already using the internet. They were already using what was known as technology. It's just that it was only a few that was privileged in order to be able to know that it was in existence. As we begin to move forward, knowing that if only in our dreams these things are to come true, we must recognize that even then Nebuchadnezzar himself would not have been having the expression on his or her face. Things toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he spoke and he commanded even them that they, being in the heat in a furnace for 7 times or more, that they would usually be heating it. He wanted to do nothing more than to destroy them. But they themselves decided to stay true to the one and only king that they knew, and whereby they called him, as he stood forth inside with them to protect them, they called him the Son of God. And whereby then Nebuchadnezzar went near the mouth of the burning furnace, only to look in to say to them, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High Allah, God of the universe, he said, come out of here. Because he realized they were going to hold on to the truth. And that's what I'm saying for everyone who is going out there gathering these truths. You got to hang on to it, because it is truth. It must be believed by you. You cannot just get it and think that it's for amusement. You cannot just get it and think you can pass it to your friends or amuse them, or to even find some way of gathering nothing more than some would-be privilege of yourself to be able to do nothing more than watch them bring you cakes and pies or to shower you with gifts. But you must realize that it's for a purpose, whereby everyone under the sun must be able to recognize in this truth. For it will only be that moment in time where every knee must bow and every tongue must confess that he is who he say he is, and there is no other. And I can assure you, that time is upon you. Me? It's easy for me to say, but I'm doing it. So thereby, I'm looking outside my window, and it's time for me to go and do what man does best. I must go to work. It is now day, and man must work while it's still day, for when night cometh, no man can work. My work must go on. As for you, perhaps maybe you believe that you've done all the work you need to do, and you don't want to do any more. I mean, it's on you. I can just tell you, it's best that you work, for my Father is forever watching. And those who do not work, my Father say they do not eat. So let me go and go to work. My appetite is going to arise as I begin to defend, expend, and give up all of the strength in which I now so have. So let me say to you, as I go my way, peace and love, and nightfall.